Hello, everybody. Welcome to Daily Coaching. So at the moment, Daily Coaching are currently hosting a number of discussions around various things within the football industry and talking with people in the industry around various different topics. So today's topic is all going to be around the player becoming the coach. And with us to discuss that, I have the Gaffer Maz of Rising Ballers and also various other coaching projects, which I'm sure he'll go in to discuss a little bit around. But basically, before we get into the topic, just kind of giving a sort of brief overview, just kind of explain really your sort of background and your experiences, kind of from a playing aspect, but also a coaching aspect too.
Firstly, hello everyone. Like I said, I'm the Gaffer Maz. I'm 26 years old, born in Algeria, raised in London from the age of 1 when I moved over with my family. I started playing football at the age of 3. Went into the academy scene at the age of 9 with Fulham Football Club. I was with them for 9 years, through the youth ranks. Unfortunately, I didn't get a professional contract, which is, part of the game is fine. I then had various trials here and there, which then broke down due to injury. I had a knee operation in 2014. Then I broke my ankle in 2015. So it was a tough year for me personally. And during that period, it was a time where I used to, research and see the other side of the game in terms of coaching. I was just picking up things, watching TV, YouTube, you name it, different coaches, their styles, etc. And that's something, I started to like more and more. I did get back to playing. I went into non-league, various non-league clubs, from step 4 all the way to step 1, which is the National League. I was fortunate to have the name at the back of my shirt, which I've always wanted to do, etc. So it was, in terms of playing experience, I've achieved quite a lot, and I'm thankful for it. And now it's, I'm on the other side trying to share that knowledge and see how far it can take me.
Brilliant. I think it's interesting as well because two things I kind of picked up on there. So obviously, number one, the aspect of the, like I said, the unfortunate injury. And
Yep.
Obviously it's something which, is kind of one of the sort of dark sides of the game, really. And I think obviously it does affect a lot of players. If, say, for example, the injury hadn't occurred, do you reckon you could have seen yourself moving into that coaching field, or was it kind of something that was sparked as a sort of reaction?
I mean, one thing with every academy, you do your studies anyway. So I always had that in the back of my mind. Looking at it, if I didn't have that injury or those injuries, shall I say, I wouldn't have maybe moved into coaching so soon. Being at such a young age, there's still a lot to play, and I still get told that now, like, why have you quit playing? Why have you stopped playing, etc. It's just, I've seen maybe a different light. I've seen a different pathway for myself personally. I've always been very, very interested in the tactical side of the game, and it's just like my dad said, there was one door that closed and another opened, and I seem to just enjoy it more now.
Yeah, I think as well, it's that kind of aspect of almost, number one, if you're kind of forced into a situation, you have to kind of react on it, and obviously credit to yourself, that's exactly what you've done. And you're making massive steps forward into that sort of decision making and into that sort of industry in which you want to go into, and what you're doing. And also as well, I kind of find it interesting because obviously you've had very good experience in terms of academies, and also in terms of the, like you said, moving up the different various steps within football as well. To an extent, you've had the luxury of being able to be around, number one, other good footballers, and number two, other knowledgeable coaches with massive experiences, obviously. And I think sometimes it's kind of like a terminology I sometimes often use is like, you wouldn't necessarily learn to cook off of, or learn to cook from a chef that can't actually cook. So having that aspect of, somebody who knows how to play football and can play it at a really high standard, obviously gives those that you're coaching inspiration and knowledge and experience to take from, really.
Definitely. I mean, one of the questions that always comes up to me is, you work with players, 16 and above, 18 and above, and I'm thankful to be in around 2 first teams of Rising Ballers and Welling United, and it's some of the players there are roughly my age, some are just slightly older, and it does help being able to play football and having that experience, because they do respect you straight away in a sense. I mean, listen, players in general have to respect any coach regardless, but it does give you that bit more of a firepower where, you know, all eyes and ears at you, you know, because, you know, I've been thankful to have played the game at different levels, you know, worked with top coaches, for example, Roy Hodgson, etc. So, you know, I've been in different changing rooms. I've heard different team talks, being as a player and as a coach. So it's definitely equipped me to the best possible way to help these young and up.
No, brilliant. I think as well, you know, like you just said there, you've obviously had massive experience from some top name coaches, and even often, quite a lot of the time, there's a knowledgeable coach, but they may not necessarily be the biggest of names. Like when I talk to people in the coaching industry, I always say that, you know, in my eyes anyway, qualifications are almost job indicators, not ability indicators.
Of course.
And you know, there's some coaches who have their level 1s or level 2s, but obviously carry great weight with what they know. So working with those coaches that you had the chance to have as managers, or just being in and around that environment, what kind of sort of influences did you take from them? What kind of did you pick up to transition into your own coaching?
Coaching styles, you know, in terms of what moment to use in different scenarios. You know, there's one thing I learned in that transition from player to coach is, and you don't really see it as much as a player, is the different characters that you have to deal with in and around the change room. Because when you're a player, you're just around other players, so you're almost similar in a sense. Yeah, there's introverts and extroverts, etc., in the change room. You know, that's normal. But at the end of the day, you just see it as you and your teammates are as one. But when you're a coach and you step to the other side, you need to think of different factors that maybe as a player you don't think of. Like, is he having any family trouble, school trouble, uni, you name it, work trouble? Because, you know, I'm around the non-league scene, and, you know, it's not full time. So, you know, they might have a bad day at work, and then they're coming to train at 7 p.m., 8 p.m., and they're just having an off day. But you have to understand that. You have to realize that. So one thing that I've definitely found is obviously different coaching styles and the methods. Communication with their players. Too many, honestly, man. Like I'm blessed, and it's something that it just happens naturally as you're learning, as you're seeing the different, you know, experiences from other people and what they've been through. Because, you know, they say it themselves, the best coaches are the ones that still and then mold it into their own. So I've been thankful to take a little bit from here and there and just, you know, shape it to what the Gaffer Maz, for example, wants his team or his players to look like, without, you know, creating robots. You know, I like to create players that are, you know, expressive and you know, enjoy the game for the sake of the game. You know, it's entertainment at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that quote as well that you use about the, like, you know, you don't want to create robots. I use a very similar one, and I think it's a lot of the time, like the old-fashioned UEFA B course was very much sort of dictated around command style and do this and do that, without much sort of leeway. And like you just said there, well, if you're kind of being told to do something, how much do you actually understand what you're being asked to do? And again, there's those sort of like 4 or 5 words of the how, when, where, why to do things. And like you just said there, you're giving the players the tools to make their own decisions, to make their own you know, movements within the game,
outcomes.
Exactly. So yeah, nice. It's interesting. And like you said as well, I think obviously with like yourself as a brand, because I think often, you know, a lot of the time players will be attracted to clubs because of badges, just like how I suppose people will wear clothing brands because of the badge it has as well. But ultimately, I think that people will respect you and understand you because, like you said, of the stamp which you'll have as the Gaffer Maz and your style of play and your philosophy. And like you said, even just your rapport with the players. I think that's a massive thing which is so often neglected within coaching.
I think that's the main thing that, you know, I've taken away from all of this is the coach that I'm working with currently right now, the manager at Welling United, Bradley Quinton. I was a player for him at Braintree Town, Conference South, when we got promoted to the Conference Prem in our first season. And he's fantastic with players, you know, the way he talks to them, the way he brings them in, and he literally squeezes every single bit of juice out of them on the pitch and off the pitch that, you know, it makes it very wholesome and together. So that's one thing I've tried to include with my Rising Ballers, for example, you know, make, you know, the whole ethos around family and, you know, making it together and one, because we're all trying to achieve that one goal. So he's someone that I definitely look up to, and someone that, you know, I'm enjoying working with in a non-league scene right now, because he's taught me a lot. And, you know, it's already been, what, 3 months since we got the job, and, you know, it's the turnaround that he's had at the club, me helping him, and, you know, the confidence he's put in me at such a young age to, you know, go and deal with training practices, etc. is, you know, it's a credit to him, you know. Like, he's a fantastic guy that puts a lot of trust. So if he puts trust in me, it's only right that I put trust in my players, and that's one from him. Sorry.
Yeah, no, massive. And it's interesting, again, you mentioned it, obviously. So again, even now, I suppose you're taking things from, you know, the coach or the manager that you're working with. And again, I suppose, like, as I say, coaches never stop learning. And
we're still the student of the
game. Yeah, exactly. And I suppose it's a thing of, even now compared to where you are now, to maybe in a few years' time as well, things may still adapt and obviously change depending on, again, who you work with. And let's be honest as well, the different scenarios you're in. Because I was going to say as well, something which just wanted to kind of delve a bit deeper into. And again, as coaches, we kind of react upon what's in front of us in the scenarios. Obviously, at the moment, you're working with quite a lot of older age players, and, you know, potentially more, not necessarily just technically gifted, but, you know, they've learnt the game obviously at a younger age, and now they're at a stage where they're making decisions rather than just learning the technical aspects. But when you first kind of started out in coaching, was it always older players that you worked with, or did you ever work with sort of the younger age groups as well?
Believe it or not, I've only been working with the older age group for just over a year now.
Okay.
I started off as every coach, you know, community sessions, Westway Sports Centre, my local centre, just off Ladbroke Grove, West London. And I just knew the coach there. You know, he was one of my coaches when I was younger, when I was going through the system. So, you know, he became the manager there and running the whole operation. And obviously after my injury, I needed a little job here and there to just keep ticking, you know, things needed to be paid, etc. So I thought, why not, let me get into it. And started just community sessions, you know, all abilities, younger age groups, you know, 5 to 7 year olds, 8 to 11 year olds, and then the 12 to 16. So those were the main 3 groups that I was working with. And it definitely taught me a lot. You know, I was always very, very technical with my information. That's one of my strengths. So, you know, I use that quite a lot with the younger kids, as you imagine. So, because, you know, they're still learning the game, and, you know, basic techniques like, you know, the core skills, etc. And then eventually I had my own development squad. So these were 7 to 8 year olds that were, you know, what we thought ready to, you know, step on from that community based side, and a bit more team structured training without it being too much pressure on them. And I really enjoyed it, really. You know, it was a solid year of them, and I thought, you know what, I'm happy to take this team on board. And it was my first under-9s team that I took for a season. Done very well in our opening season as part of the Market Road Youth League. You know, it's not win, lose, or draw in that sense. There's no champions or anything. In my eyes, they were great. But, you know, we had a lot of success playing football, in my eyes, the correct way, you know, trying to play out from the back, and every coach loves to do that. But, you know, the players were brave. They done it. And I started experimenting a bit more, and I thought, you know what, let me take them to the under-10s one step further, where things maybe start to get a little bit more serious. Not too serious, because they're still at the age where, you know, they should just enjoy it and get out there and learn and put their skills to good practice. But I done my under-10s, and, you know, it was fantastic. You know, we won various in around London that, you know, we take them to tournaments, and, you know, coaches would always come up and compliment myself and my team, and, you know, it gave confidence. And then there was a summer of 2018 where you know, someone approached me about a job to take a under-21 side, and it was my first time working with older boys. You know, I would usually just be a little training session here and there where I'm just coaching, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 of them, but to have a squad of 18 or something different. But, you know, I took on the challenge. I don't like turning down challenges, and I enjoyed it. And I was like, wow, all the technical information that I use with the younger kids, I can still use it with these older ones, but obviously they have a bit more game understanding and knowledge. So, you know, the experiences I had from maybe a professional level, I could start sharing with them even more. And that's something I grew to love more each day and each game and each training session. And then all of a sudden, you know, that's when Rising Ballers came in. And then, you know, it's just started from there, really. So I'll never forget the experiences I had with the younger age group, because it taught me a lot about myself. Definitely taught me, you know, to be patient. As someone that's played football at a decent level, it's hard to sometimes go back to that level and think, oh, but it's easy. It's just a Cruyff turn. Yeah. You know, when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, I was able to do what's going on here. When you start going into science and behind football and whatnot, and how every kid's different, and it really starts to channel your mind, you know, and you start to challenge yourself and you start to learn a bit more. And at the end of the day, you're just self-improving on the job, and that's the best thing about it.
Yeah, no, totally. I think as well, like, almost sometimes when people first step into coaching, they kind of want the top jobs. So the older age groups, they think, listen, this will be easier. Even though, to be honest with you, I challenge anybody who says that, because I think that sometimes, you know, working with the younger ones, you're getting to put those fundamentals in, and you're getting to almost pave the way for them in terms of their learning and their development. Whereas with the older ones, as you kind of mentioned, first of all, you're dealing with all sorts of things. You know, it's not only just the football side of things, but it's also the outside aspects as well. I remember when I coached a under-14 side for the first time, and, you know, there's all going through puberty. There's all dealing with sort of do I still want to play football? Am I playing football because my parents want me to? So having that sort of early age experiences as well. I mean, because technically, as coaches or players, we've all been through that as well. I mean, you know, nobody just steps into an academy. It's, you know, you have to play recreationally first of all before you transition into that, or get the opportunity to go into a more elite standard. So yeah, it's interesting. And kind of picking up on the point you said there about like the scenario you gave of, like, you know, I could potentially do a Cruyff turn, and at first you're sometimes looking at players and thinking, well, you know, can't you replicate it as well? I remember there was I think a saying or a piece in the news about Paolo Di Canio, and when he first took over at Sunderland, I think he was very fresh from coming out of his playing days, and I think he went in and he done some training sessions, and he sort of showed them some of the ways in which he wanted them to play, and I think some of the players couldn't do what he could do. Now, obviously, he's a very technically gifted player, but he almost couldn't understand. He was like, well, I'm a footballer and I can do it, and I played in the Premier League, so why can't you do it? So I think sometimes it's that, like you said, it's that understanding of, you know, how do we support them, how do we help them, and those kind of things. But picking up on that then, is there any sort of advantages, well, I can think of some myself, but advantages, disadvantages to having a playing background, potentially obviously at the level where you've been at a really high standard, you know, within your playing days and your playing game. But yeah, any disadvantages, advantages you'd say from somebody experiencing playing the game to then transitioning into the coaching environment?
Definitely, you got to put yourself in the shoes of both people first. And sometimes, like myself as a young coach, sometimes I don't grasp it, or sometimes I don't understand why I need to do it. You know, as a young person still myself, you know, sometimes maybe you go more into the challenges. Like sometimes, for example, I've made mistakes myself where I've joined in a training session, and then without realizing, the training session is almost becoming about me. And this is me just training with Rising Ballers, for example. They're more than capable of playing with me, or me playing with them, etc. But it's the thought process behind it of, hold on, it's not about me, it's about them. So you do need to switch your mindset, and that's very tough, from becoming a player straight into a coach. Regardless of the timings of how long you've been coaching or whatnot, you'll always have that urge and that passion to just want to join in. But that was a tough bit, me not being able to join in, and knowing that, all right, I've had my time, it's their time now to, you know, have that on the pitch. So that was one of the cons for me, because I love football so much, but in their eyes, and what's the most important thing, the pros is for the players, you know. So that was a tough bit for me. The pros obviously is being in an academy. You know, the difference between an academy and, for example, a Sunday league setup is just the details in every single thing. You know, it gets stripped down to a T. You know, it's not just a step over, it's more than it. And for example, a Sunday league setup, they will just see it as a step over. Whereas an academy setup, or somewhere, you know, a bit more, you know, advanced, they'll see it as, you know, a skill that creates, or a skill that, you know, deviates away from the opposition, except like so many different aspects behind it, you know. So definitely the technical detail and the detail in general definitely helps transferring it into my setup right now, because, you know, players, they find themselves a bit more intrigued because, like, hold on, I'm, for example, 16, 17, and I've never heard this before. Whereas someone as myself or someone in an academy that's maybe 13, 14 has probably heard it for about 3-4 years in a row, if they've been there. So it's definitely having that advantage of terminology, you know, just the basic tactics off the ball and on the ball. I find that, you know, some of these players struggle quite a lot. So that's something I can share with them, and the tips that was easy for me to remember, I pass it on to my players, so it's easy for them to remember. And it's just a cycle that keeps on going, because 5 years time, 10 years time, you name it, they probably may be future coaches and they'll do the same thing. So, you know, it's just, I see all of it as a pro and none of it as a con. I'll be honest with you. You know, like, I'm just grateful to share my experiences, share my knowledge, and carry on learning, because I'm still learning every day. You know, and, you know, just taking it up on board and doing the best I can, and hopefully the players, you know, they show it on and off the pitch, because you're a reflection of your players and they're a reflection of you. So, you know, it's simple as.
Yeah, no, I think as well, there's again another very good saying you mentioned there about the you know, almost the players that you're coaching potentially coming coaches as well. And again, I think very similar. I think that, you know, if you're not necessarily doing your job, because obviously different coaches have different roles and responsibilities and things like that, but I think you're almost giving these players not only the tools for on the pitch, and as a player making the understanding of, like we said, what to do, when to do it, how to do it, why to do it, but you're almost, like you said, molding them into future coaches to have that game understanding and that knowledge of why certain things are happening in the way which they are. And like you said, not just on the ball stuff. So often I think that, again, coaches kind of coming into the game look at it as though it's just, okay, what are we doing on the ball? But like you said, it's around the ball. What about the opposition? Again, something that often gets neglected a lot of the time, goalkeepers. What's a goalkeeper's role when you're in possession? What's a goalkeeper's role when you're out of possession?
Of course.
So, yeah, it's interesting to like you said, to almost see them.
I mean, one thing I'll always take with me from life is my father is a big inspiration in my life personally. You know, someone that played football professionally back home, and then, you know, taught me everything I knew until it was enough. And then I had to, you know, I had the opportunity to go into an academy environment. But one thing he always, you know, was very strict about was discipline. And if some people see the Rise and Borders videos, for example, I wouldn't say I'm hard on the players, because, you know, that's not my style. But there's a time where I've learned as a young coach that you need to stamp your authority, not in a sense of, you know, the Sir Alex Ferguson hairdryer treatment or anything like that, but, you know, just, you know, show them the right and wrong, because at the end of the day, I'm not just their football coach. I like to see it as I'm their mentor, I'm their friend, you name it. So, you know, it's like I said, it's all about player rapport, but then again, a big thing is discipline for me. I think discipline in sport is fantastic. It brings the mind, body and soul together without realizing. And it really, it tests strength of character, strength as a person. So, you know, that's something I'll always take with me and something I always share with my player, because for me, one saying Mark Pembridge told me, is my under-14s coach, he was a Fulham player for a number of years, was, you're late to training, you're late into the box to score a goal. You know, that was me referring to me as a central midfielder. So, you know, those little sayings and those little, you know, terminologies, I'll take with me away for life, and I'll share with the younger generation, because, you know, I'm all about empowering the youth, aspiring and inspiring, and, you know, just making sure that they don't have no regrets playing the sport that we all love. You understand? Like, too many people are, you know, yes, it's a results-based industry, and there's a time for 3 points, and there's a time to be serious, etc. Like, I've been in a change room where I'm fighting for relegation, and I've been in a change room where we're 1 point away from having playoffs. You know, so it's like, well, you know, winning the league. So I understand in terms of the winning mentality. You've got to have it as if you want to aspire, in my opinion, to go as high as possible, because that's what brings real champions out there. But it comes back to without no discipline, you can't do any of that. So that's one of my main core values that I try and instill in my club and my players and my surroundings.
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense as well, because again, kind of going back to what we talked about earlier on about the person and not necessarily the player. I think, regarding sort of the amount of time you spend with players each week, and sort of the overall impact you're going to have on a player, you're probably going to have more of an impact on them as a person rather than them as a footballer. Because like I said, potentially by the time they become 16, 17, and to be honest with you, I've said it to many coaches before, I think even at a younger age now, like by the age of 8, you've probably had about 100 coaches, whether it be football, sports, whatever it is, introduced to you within your life, whether it be through school, whether it be through extracurricular activities. So I think you're 100% right there about the sort of like instilling the discipline within people, because actually like I said, you're molding their personalities as well as being a footballer. So totally makes sense. All right, then, kind of just sort of finish off around this sort of main topic of the player becoming the coach. What kind of advice would you give out to any players regarding any level, really? I mean, obviously, we've spoken about your level, which has obviously been pretty high, but even if, like, say, for example, there's a Sunday League player out there, what kind of advice would you give a player who wants to transition into coaching? Kind of like the not necessarily the do's and the don'ts, but the things to be aware of or be apparent to. I know you kind of mentioned a few things, but
the main thing that my father made sure I done every training session was be the first person, and make sure your mind is like a sponge. Take in that information, soak it up, write little notes after training sessions of what your coach said. It goes a long way, honestly. It's all about listening, all about, taking in that information, taking different information on board, listen to your coach, listen a bit to your parents, maybe to your peers, your players, your players' parents, etc. You'll know over time whether it's good information or bad information. So, you can then slowly create a list, and on the left side, all the good stuff you've taken on board and all the bad stuff. In terms of the good stuff, try and instill it in your day-to-day life, your day-to-day activities. And when you're on the pitch, try and produce the goods. And then obviously with the bad side, then you know what to refrain from. And then that way you have like a little structure in terms of how you want to be as a player and how you want to coach. And then that makes that transition a lot easier, a lot smoother. But one thing I say, and one of the questions always pops up in my DMs on Instagram, for example, is it too late for me to become a professional footballer, or is it too early for me to become a coach? The only person that can answer that is yourself. It's all about mindset. Now, I've been fortunate to be working with players at 19, 20, and we have a great track record at Rise and Ballers. They've become professional footballers at that age. If you told me that maybe 5 years ago, or you asked someone that 5 years ago, they'd be like, 19? No, that's too late. That's too late. He would have been a first-year pro by then. It's all about mindset, how much work you're willing to put in, how much, how dedicated you are, how much you love the sport. And, just take it on your stride, take it by your stride, and, work towards your goal. Have day goals, have a weekly plan, have a 3-month plan, a 6-month plan, a yearly plan. This is something, if you're young, you can do with your coaches, your parents, you name it. And the most important thing is always research, man. Like, I know sometimes reading might be boring for certain people. Go watch a YouTube video. Go watch your favorite player. Go watch maybe your favorite team. Why are they so good? There's some fantastic programs out there. I'm pretty sure all the kids now, laptops or computers or any sort of form of tablet where they can access, Now TV, for example, like the Dortmund series or the Man City, and you have a little vibe, because there's too many people that they miss out on being in a change room, or they miss out on being in and around the team. That's for you to grasp some of that information without having to be in that environment. Yeah. And if you are in that environment, bless yourself to be very, very lucky, because too many people would love a team and they don't have a chance to. So make sure you make that, every little moment count. Don't live with no regrets. Don't play with no regrets. Play with a smile in your face. And honestly, one big thing that I learned in football at such a young age, it's down to luck as well. If it happens, it happens. It doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. So don't beat yourself up. There's always an avenue in football or in sport in general to take up. For example, myself, I use it as living proof. For me, football-wise, I'm not going to say it's worked out for me coaching-wise, because I'm still young and still part of my coaching journey. I haven't aspired or done what I would like to do, but I'm in a process and I'm enjoying it, and that's the most important thing. So remember, football is all about entertainment. You've got to enjoy the game. Ronaldinho, Zidane, all of these greats that maybe some of these viewers at home that are probably going to look at this video and this podcast they might be a bit too young for that generation. But look at Messi and Ronaldo, etc. They all play with a smile on their face. They all have, an end goal, whether it be individual or team-based, and they crack on with it. It's all about hard work.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Do you know what? Listening to that piece of advice as well, I think not only ticks the box for players who are currently coaching or players who want to become coaches, but people who might be playing football, and like you said, kind of having that additional avenue. Because I agree. I think these series, like you said, the Dortmund one, the Man City one, the Sunderland one, it gives you such an insight into the life of not even just a footballer, but the life within football and within the industry. So massive. And again, like you said about the enjoyment factor, I think these names that you started to reel off there, these are the ones we remember, because like you said, football is entertainment, and we get attracted to that and remember that because they're the things which are fresh in our mind, or as kids we want to try and replicate, or as coaches or as managers we're wanting to try and get our players to do. So massively impactful advice there, and I think that it's definitely stuff for people to take on board. Listen, brilliant discussion with you. I think, like I said, fantastic pieces of advice for, like I said, well, the topic around players becoming coaches, but I just think in general, really, for players who are thinking to do that route, or coaches who are already out there as well. And like you said, I think we always never stop learning, and the reference you use to the sponge of taking in and absorbing all that information, knowledge, experience, opportunities that you get, again, is a massive part of what coaching is, and is massive in terms of taking it forwards and really understanding, like you said, who you are as an individual and what you want to get out of these scenarios and situations. So like I said, massively impactful, and I thought, like I said, really important to get you on this discussion, because not only because of your fortunate playing background, but also as well now the transition which you're into. Again, you're making massive movements within the coaching industry, so it's credit to yourself. So massive thank you for having you on here. Do you want to share some of your social media platforms, just so that people can reach out to you?
Yeah, sure thing. So the main one is Instagram at TheGafferMaz. It's what I use the most, and really no point of me giving others that non-existent in my life at the moment. I need to keep with the times probably, but Instagram at TheGafferMaz, at Rising Ballers, at Rising Ballers FC. Usually we have episodes every Monday night, showing a bit about our club and what we do and how we help mold players, etc. So make sure you tune in, make sure you keep supporting daily coaching as well. Honestly, fantastic platform. Thank you for having me on board. Absolute pleasure. It's always, I find it, amazing that I've been given a chance to showcase my experience to others and help others around the world, wherever they are. So thank you once again for having me on board, and good luck to everyone on their journey. Look forward to hopefully, helping one or two of you along the way. And if you need help, my Instagram, feel free to give me a message, and I'm more than likely reply to you as soon as possible. So yeah.
No problem. Like I said, again, massively appreciate it. What I'll do is I'll put the links into your Instagram and the Rising Balls one. Obviously people hear it from your experiences, what you shared, but yeah, definitely advise people to get in touch with yourself, see the work that you're doing, and see the work what Rising Ballers is doing as well, because it's massively sort of making waves within the social media world. So yeah, like I said, massively appreciate it. And hopefully, like I said, I know that people will take things away from it, but hopefully people will get in touch and fire with you some more.
Sounds good, mate.
No worries. I appreciate your time, and I'll catch up with you soon. All right. Thanks.
See ya.